Hey yo, the rain was steady pouring, heard the drops and drizzle meant to be. Chilling in my crib, no doubt, peep the scenery. Telephone rang, then it stopped before I could answer it. I heard a knock at the door, so I answered it. And with Jermaine, he had a little situation. Beef up on the block, and orthodox that led the confrontation. He said these cats be acting hard on the block, and they be pumping weight and holding, so Dwayne got shot. Now see, Dwayne was just a knucklehead, but still with his
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to try something a little different. If you guys saw my other videos, I am running a GTX 3582R on my Supra, and I've always wanted a T51R compressor housing. So there it was, scrolling through Marketplace late at night, like every car guy does, looking at cars, car parts, things that you're probably never going to buy, and I just so happened to roll across a GTX 3582R with a T51 compressor housing. So I thought, well, that'll work because I've got a GTX 3582R, but mine's just a normal anti-surge housing, not the T51. So I hit the guy up, I asked him if he was willing to sell it to me for cheaper than what he was asking, and 80 bucks later, I got me a T51R compressor housing, and the whole turbo. Now, I was a little skeptical of this. If you guys ever bought a turbo and they're like, oh, it's blown, something's wrong with it, like you're a little skeptical, you're a little concerned. I wasn't really worried because I'm after the compressor housing. I don't care about the rest of the turbo. If it's blown up, that doesn't matter to me. As long as the compressor wheel didn't collide with the compressor housing, we're fine. Luckily, since I got the whole turbo, I came home, I instantly swapped the compressor housings out, and they didn't fit. Even though it's a Gen 2 GTX 35, for whatever reason, well, actually I know what the reason is, it took me a little bit to figure it out, but the T51R housing would not fit on my turbo. So this is what I did. Here's everything I have. This is my turbo, T51, the housing that came on my turbo, the backing plate, and then this is from the turbo with the T51. You can see it's all covered in oil, so I'm assuming the bearings were all shot. This is the center right here. There's a couple of the ball bearings they look pretty chewed up, so obviously I'm not going to be using that, and I have no intentions on using that. That's actually a smaller housing too, turbine housing than what I've already got, so I don't want to mess with that one anyways. So when I went to put this housing onto my turbo after I took this one off, this was actually pressing against the compressor wheel. So the compressor wheel was hitting inside here, and obviously on this one it didn't. What I found out was the backing plate, which is this one came off of my turbo that's currently on, well, the turbo that was currently on my car. This one was on that. This one here is the one that's supposed to go with the T51, with this guy right here. So all I did, now some of you guys are going to cringe a little bit here. I've done this before. You guys are going to hear that you need to balance a turbo after you replace the compressor wheel, or if you take the compressor wheel off and you're doing any of this kind of stuff, you need to rebalance it. Guys, I'm not worried about it. Okay, this is an eBay turbo. Okay, if it's going to fail, it's going to fail. I had to put the compressor wheel for the T51 onto my turbo, which again, it's the GTX 3582R. It's all the same stuff. The wheel was a little bit smaller here, so I used my micrometer, measured it out. This one was a little bit smaller than the one that came off my car, which was this one right here. So there's the two right there. I was really after the backing plate. So when you take this off, and now this is a left-handed thread, so you undo it the counterclockwise, what you'd actually think. So take that off, slide this off, and then behind this plate on my turbo was a snap ring. Now, replacing or swapping these plates out, these backing plates, was a nightmare. If you guys know anything about snap rings, these guys right here, they can be an absolute nightmare to deal with. So I've got a pair of snap ring pliers. They worked okay, but this is just it's back inside here, and it's such a pain to get to. The snap ring sits inside this little groove here, but I was able to do it. So I pulled the snap ring off, swapped the plates out. So I've got the new one on here with the compressor wheel that's supposed to be for the T51. So now when I go to push this one on here, it fits perfect. And if you test the compressor wheel inside there, it spins freely with no binding. Obviously there's it's a little off just because it's not bolted to it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back on my car. So because I kept my center housing, all of the exhaust housing stuff should work just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and put this center housing back on. I'm going to hook up my coolant lines, oil feed, oil drain, and then I can slap the compressor housing on there and should be able to fire it up. So again, I know guys, you're gonna probably roast me in the comments. You can't just replace the compressor wheel without balancing it, whatever. I understand balancing. I've heard you don't need to do it. I've heard that it's absolutely necessary. I've rebuilt like 4 or 5 turbos without balancing. I use the same compressor wheel. Compressor wheels are already balanced. If you look at it, there's a little notch right there taken out. That means that it's been spun up and they took that little notch off to balance it perfectly. This wheel also has the same thing. So I'm not that concerned about it. If it's going to blow up, it's going to blow up, whatever. We're going to figure that out really quickly. But I have a lot of confidence in this. I have a feeling that it's going to work just fine and I'm not concerned. I mean, it spins freely. It doesn't have any weird binding issues in here. Because they are the same turbo, the GTXs, the 35s, the compressor wheels themselves are the same diameter. Like I said, it was just the height that was a little bit different. I think it's because of the compressor housing itself. I did a sanity check. Turns out I didn't need to swap the compressor wheels. The one that was currently on my turbo is perfect. It's going to fit. I used a micrometer, measured the height of both compressor wheels, and they're exactly spot on. So I'm going to leave my compressor wheel. I didn't want to switch it. I don't know. I know it's a GTX 3582R that I got from that other guy. I just don't know if the fins were smaller, like if the housing was like a 0.72 versus a 0.63 or whatever it may be. I didn't want to start messing with that stuff and then have to retune everything. So that was good that I double checked that. So before I pulled the compressor wheel off, I marked it with just a Sharpie. I marked it on the top of the turbine shaft, down the side of the compressor wheel. That way I could line it back up and get it like pretty close to where it would have been balanced from the factory. So I've gone ahead and done that. The only thing I needed to replace was that backing plate. So it's, like I said, it's offset a little bit. The T51R housing was actually running into the impeller if I didn't switch that out. So I switched it out. It fits. We're ready to rock. Now, if you look here, you would say the housings look almost the same. And that's kind of what I thought. When I bought it, I brought it home and I was like, I don't know if that's a T51. You start looking at it a little bit closer. So there's this sleeve in here. This is the one that came off my car. This turbo was already pretty loud as it was when it was spooling up, but this one has a different ring inside here that's going to allow air to pass in through here, which this one's got the same thing, but this one's going to actually stick further up out. Now, for those of you guys that don't know what a T51R is, we're in the same boat. I don't know either. I don't know what the compressor housing looks like, contrary to like an anti-surge housing or whatever, or if it's the same exact thing. I don't know. My assumption is air passes over the compressor wheel a little differently, so it hitting the fins, maybe in a different direction. I have no idea. All I know is they sound amazing. And I've wanted one of these on my car for a long time. So luckily I stumbled across the one on Marketplace, and here we are. Okay, new compressor housing's on. I can't think of a single thing that could go wrong. I guess we just send it now and hope for the best. Sweet. Well, so far everything seems to be running fine. Didn't hear any weird noises. Was ready to kill it if I heard anything. Seems to spin up just fine. It's not as loud as I was thinking it was going to be, but I'm going to hook up the charge tubes. Maybe that's why there's not as much back pressure against the compressor wheel. So I'm going to hook that up, fire it back up again, burp the system, because now that I unhook the coolant lines, there's going to be some air in there. And I'm going to just bleed the system a little bit and then maybe take it for a quick rip. And round two. Definitely louder than my other one, but it's not as loud as I was wanting it to be, and that could be because of the turbine housing might be a little too big, so it's not spooling up the turbo, I guess, all the way to where you would hear it at just an idle. But we're gonna take it for a drive really fast, and hopefully you guys can hear it. I was gonna put the mic inside the engine bay, but I haven't had a ton of great success with that, so hopefully you guys can just hear it from inside the car. Definitely a lot louder. I think it just needed to be under a little bit of power. You can definitely hear it, and it sounds amazing. There we go. If you guys can hear it right here, I'll get on it. So it's not building boost. I don't know if I bumped something when I was messing with the housing. So I don't know if a coupler came off or something, but dude, it's loud. It sounds so good. I was a little worried the housing was the wrong one when I bought it, because it looked almost identical to mine, but definitely different. Even at low RPM, you hear it spinning pretty loud. My throttle cable might be stuck because it's revving pretty high. But man, this thing's sick. I'm gonna run back to my house, see why my throttle's acting weird. It might just be stuck on something. Like I said before, it's happened. I don't know why it does. It's with the throttle body. It's anything that I did. But we're gonna check it and see what's going on. Forgot that I had messed with the throttle adjustment screw a little bit. I was having issues with the car. Thought that's maybe what it was. Turned out it was just a bad ground. Fixed it, but I forgot to readjust the throttle screw. So it was basically giving it way too much throttle input. And that's where I thought the throttle was stuck. So it's fixed now. We're gonna go for one more rip and see how it goes, and then we'll call it good for the day. It is loud, and I'm barely even going. It's like maybe 1500 RPM, and I can hear it already coming on. And it's noticeably louder, but it's good. It's not like an annoying loud. It's got a good sound to it for sure. Still don't know why it's not building boost. It's kind of weird. I don't know if the compressor wheel that I switched down is different, like I said, with the turbine housing. So I might have to put the other turbine housing on that guy gave me, but I don't know if that'll work with the turbine wheel. So hooked. Go back to the garage. Car's acting kind of funny now. I don't know. It's not to do with the turbo. It was doing this before, like right after the video that we did with the two-step with the anti-lag. The car started like, I don't know if the throttle position sensor is going out or something, but the car started like kind of jolting really bad. And I thought the problem went away. I thought it was a bad grounding issue, like I just barely said. And I went to drive it again, and the problem came back with the kind of the jolting, the kind of, I don't know, it's weird. It's like you put on the throttle a little bit, and it starts to like kind of hiccup a little bit, and then the car just doesn't want to run. So I'm going to have the tuner look at it, see if I can schedule to have him just check it out and see what's going on with it. Hopefully it's not a throttle position sensor. If it is, that's a somewhat easy fix. I just don't know what's going on. But other than that, the turbo sounds amazing. So it looks really good in there. Everything looks great. There's residual oil. I think that's just from the oil that was inside the compressor housing when I got it from the guy. But other than that, it sounds really good. It comes on pretty good. Like I said, I just don't know why it's not building boost. That could be something to do with the throttle position sensor. So getting on it, it was acting fine at first when I was driving it, but then when it started doing, I don't know if it's like a fail safe that he put in, that the tuner put in, but it's definitely making the car cut, spark, or do something weird. So I'm gonna have him just look at it. Hopefully it's just an easy fix. I don't think the motor's damaged. I don't think anything like that. Like, I don't think it dropped a valve or nothing like that. It would have been pretty catastrophic if it did. Hopefully I can have him just remote in, take a look at it, and we can kind of diagnose what's going on. Again, we also have to take it in. I'm gonna take it into him to also tune for E90. So probably a good idea to have him just check everything before we start to pump E90 through it to make sure it's running great. Other than that, guys, hopefully you get a good idea. I was gonna give you some sound clips of me driving up and down the street with it, but can't do that now because the car doesn't want to drive. So if I can get it fixed, I'll do some rollings and whatnot, so you guys can hear the T51 outside of the car. But that being said, guys, if this is something you want to do, you can actually buy the compressor housings off eBay for the GTX 35. I would just be very weary because, like I said, I was going to buy just the compressor housing and just throw it on, and I learned pretty quickly that it wasn't going to fit. So luckily I had that whole other turbo that he gave me to switch out the backing plates and make it work. So if you want the T51R, I'd say just spend a little bit more money. You can buy the Pulsar T51R. That's probably what I'm going to do in the future, and just see if that's a better option for me. I can get the same AR ratio and everything, but just a different turbo. So anyways, enough about that. If you guys liked the video, give me a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel and you came to hear the T51R, I apologize that I couldn't get any more sound clips for you guys, but stay tuned for more videos. Hit that subscribe button if you're not following me already. Again, like, comment, and again, as always, you guys are awesome, and I appreciate everything you do for me. And that being said, we will see you on the next one.
Unorthodox to let the confrontation. He said these cats be acting hard on the block, and they be pumping weight and holding, so Dwayne got shot. Now see, Dwayne was just a knucklehead, but still with his cousin. And I'd be wrong if I ain't help him when his beef, he gon' rush him. He said, listen, homie, ain't no time for discussion. More than a bust him, so if you with me, then you with me, nigga, make a decision. Got the bait, you be the hook, cause we's about to go fishing. Now listen, when it's on, then it's on for show. Kiss my girl up on the head and in the wind up the door. Stood up in the dark, it comes to light. So always play your part, and say goodnight. Stand up in the dark, it come to light. So always play your part, and say goodnight. Stand up in the dark, it